Reading with your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni muli wanji, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We're so delighted and so very honored that you join us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to subscribe to the show on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find your podcasts. Our guests today are Glenda, Armand, and Kim Freeman. They'll be speaking to our amazing intern, Cassandra Maisonet, about their beautiful picture book, Ice Cream Man, How Augustus Jackson Made a Sweet Treat Better. Before we invite our guests into the studio, we want to let you know that this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is brought to you by The Antidotes Pollution Solution. Great middle grade novel by our friend Dr. Patty Michelle. Just when a group of 5th grade friends is returning to normal life and to school after a global pandemic, the waters of the Chesapeake Bay have become polluted by a plastic-eating bacteria experiment gone wrong, and both fish and kids are getting sick. It's a really thrilling story that introduces us to a group of middle grade climate warriors who call themselves the Antidotes. They joined forces with public health activists to find clean water solutions. The friends use STEM strategies to help save the earth from a potential disaster. And they also have secret meetings, do a little spy work, and make some useful discoveries. The Antidotes race against the clock to get out the world to kids around the world about how to stay safe. But will the Antidotes be able to get enough kids to achieve zero plastic use before it makes any more fish or kids sick? Join the Antidotes in their first science adventure and stay tuned for more stories to come. You and your kids are going to love this book. It's The Antidotes by Dr. Patty Michelle. This episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast is also brought to you by the Chuckle Wobbles by Prue McDonald, a certified great read. The Chuckle Wobbles is an amazing children's book with an inspiring, positive message. Prue McDonald teaches kids how to cultivate moments of happiness that we may access when we're feeling stressed or depressed. The book follows the Chuckle Wobbles, a cheery species that live on planet Mirth, which is spinning in dimensional space. They have an upbeat, bubbly personality, and they love to dance. They have the ability to enter a book called Portals to Other Planets and travel to unhappy planets in order to lift their spirits. The plot moves seamlessly from one scene to the next. Prue McDonald's clever text and Cantor's whimsical, beautiful illustrations work together to promote the joy of creating moments of happiness and the thrill of trying new things. The adorable creatures' many behaviors will keep young readers turning the page and add to the story. We really love this book. It is a Reading with Your Kids certified great read. Get your copy today. The Chuckle Wobbles by Prue McDonald.
Hello, welcome to today's episode of Reading with Your Kids. Today I'm joined by two talented authors, Glenda Armand and Kim Freeman. Glenda and Kim, thank you for both joining me today.
You're welcome.
Jed and I are really happy to have you here. Glenda, you actually did an interview with Jed some time back, and Kim, this is your first time on the podcast.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Glenda, can you explain a little bit about Ice Cream Man, the book?
Well, I have an editor at Penguin Random House. I wrote Black Eyed Peas with her, and she told me that she has an author who wrote a great manuscript about Augustus Jackson. I'd never heard of him. And she wanted to see if I would co-author the book with Kim being a first-time writer. And I said, let me see who he is. And so I learned about him as much as I could because there's not that much about him. And I was happy to write the book with her once I found out who he was. And it was, really a great collaboration, I think, working with Kim and learning about Augustus Jackson together, really.
So, Kim, how did you come across Augustus Jackson?
Well, I've attended a lot of writing workshops. I belong to SCBWI, and one thing that editors and agents always say is write about what you like. And I was eating ice cream one day, and I just got to thinking about the history of ice cream. It's like, I wonder, I'd like to know more about the history of ice cream. So I started researching it, and Augustus Jackson's name kept popping up. There were articles from the 1800s, that said he was a father of ice cream. And I realized there's no books written about him. And I was like, he was an amazing individual, and people need to know about him. So I wanted to, get a book out there about him, share his story.
I actually looked up Augustus Jackson and just ice cream on Wikipedia, and you don't really see Augustus Jackson mentioned on the ice cream Wikipedia page, which I thought was super interesting. Yeah, because the way that he reinvented, modernized ice cream is so important. So I thought that was really interesting that in that sense, he was kind of lost to time unless you're really looking for him.
Right. And yeah, if you don't know about him, it's like so many things we weren't taught in school. The teachers didn't know, and certainly didn't learn about Augustus Jackson, during Black History Month when I was at school. But I just say, now we know, and I'm happy that Kim and I are getting the word out, because a lot of people seem to be interested in it and in his story, because it's Black history, but it's also about being an entrepreneur. It was during slavery time, but here's a person who succeeded. And I think it's a lot for children to get to know that even during the time of slavery, there were free Blacks, and there were free Blacks who were successful at what they were doing. So that's a positive message, because, the messages tend to be a little negative, well, a lot negative, especially during Black History Month. So this is a role model for Black kids outside of politics and the struggle, in slavery.
Could we talk more about his background?
Well, he grew up in a time period in the 1800s, when a lot of 12-year-olds would have jobs. I was reading about it, and it was just unbelievable, the number of 12-year-olds and types of jobs they did. And there were just families that they needed their children to be out working because they didn't have much money. And Augustus Jackson's, family was poor. And, it was just a way for him to make money for his family.
I think that's a good point that Kim brings up. To us, it's so unusual that a 12-year-old would leave home and start, to seek his fame and fortune. But that they did start young in those days, all children, all races. And in terms of slavery, by the time you were 3, you were feeding the chickens. You had little jobs on the farm or on the plantation. So it wasn't quite that unusual. Girls got married at 13 and 14.
Right.
It was a sign of the times.
Yeah, I noticed that he started getting really involved with work at a really young age. My father as well. He started going to work at a really young age. And I noticed Augustus accomplished so much when he was a teenager. And I can't fathom that. That's just, that's inspirational, actually.
Yes.
Children. Actually.
Yeah. He worked for under 3 presidents at the White House, at that age. And it's, incredible that he was able to follow his dream of being a cook and work at the White House.
Yeah, I wish we had more information about those days and how he actually got the job. We know he did, and we know he worked under Jenny Trigger, who was a slave herself. And that's another thing that, another aspect of slavery is that a lot of the people who were in charge were actually enslaved themselves. They had people working under them. They ultimately were slaves. So it's just, it just gives children a wider picture of what African American history is and slavery and being free and being enslaved. It's a simple story that everybody can relate to ice cream, but there are different levels, there are different flavors.
Now, something that you actually brought up, which I thought was really interesting, is that having to go off of a little bit of history and not having the full picture, was that difficult in the writing process of The Ice Cream Man?
Yeah, it was, because we had to, and we even had to put kind of a disclaimer in the beginning of the book saying these events are true to the times and true to what we do know. So we didn't put anything that couldn't happen. couldn't have happened. But we're not sure exactly how he went from Philly to DC. So we had to come up with something that was plausible and that would make sense. So we had to fill in a lot of gaps like that, relying on what we know about the times. And maybe it wasn't specific to him, but like we know that boys left home to leave at 12 years old, and that they would be left in the hands of family, friends, and things like that.
And so in the beginning of the book, there is actually a song. And I was curious, was that song written by any of you, or did you know this song?
Yeah, we had fun coming up with the ice cream songs. There's about 4 of them in the book, if my counting's right.
We came up with the jingles ourselves.
Do you have a little tune in your head when you have that song?
I think it's more of a chant. This is like, let's see, the first one, let's see the one on the back. Ice cream, come and taste. Get it before it melts, no time to waste. Strawberry, mint, and vanilla too. Step right up, try something new. So I guess it's not really a song, but more of a chant.
Right.
In my mind, do you have a song, a tune, Kim?
Yeah, I was thinking more of a chant also. I work in sales at the newspaper, and I would use to sell subscriptions at fairs, and, I would try to come up with little things like that to get people to buy newspapers.
So yeah, more of a little chance of that. And I know that as we read it to kids, Kim and I will be reading the book for World Read Aloud Day. We're going to be reading to kids all over the country. And I know that kids like, as a elementary school teacher, I know that kids like to repeat little chants and little rhymes and things like that. So that's a part of the book that'll be fun as a read aloud. Definitely a read aloud as opposed to Black Eyed Peas, which is really to sit down and share and discuss. But Ice Cream Man is a read aloud.
So for Augustus, like I said, he changed the recipe of ice cream, and now we have the modernized version of ice cream that we know and love today. So could you explain what he changed exactly?
Well, he's the one that came up with adding rock salt, when you're making ice cream. And, that invention is what helps make ice cream stay frozen. So then he came up with a way to keep it frozen longer. There wasn't any freezers back then. So he put the ice cream in tins, metal tins, and put the tins on blocks of ice to keep it cold, to compensate for there being no freezers. And, the rock salt, kept it frozen longer. And then he shipped it, by train. And he was really one of the first to do that, to ship the ice cream to other places. I mean, he shipped it all the way to New York, 100 miles away, which, hadn't been done before. So he came up with, basically a lot of the things we're still doing today. The rock salt. You can't make ice cream without rock salt. So.
What I find so fun to think about with ice cream is that even now, ice cream is still evolving, because we had ice cream soda, we have rolled up ice cream, different variations, even like nitrogen kind of style ice cream. Even then, ice cream is still evolving, and there's so much ice cream trends as well. And I know on TikTok, some time back, there was this really trending 3-ingredient ice cream, no churn. You just throw some ingredients in a bag and you shake it. And then it suddenly makes ice cream. And I was actually curious about myself. Didn't have the ice cream consistency, but it tasted sort of like vanilla. So I guess it worked out. It's just so fun to think that before Augustus Jones, there was different ice creams with the egg recipes that keeps going and going. And who knows, we might years from now find another way to recreate, I guess, ice cream again.
Yeah, and we have that recipe at the back of the book. Like you said, just a few ingredients, and it does work, and it does taste like ice cream. Kim made some. What flavor did you make, Kim?
I made peanut butter, and it was really, really good.
Oh, yeah. And I did strawberry. I just used strawberry preserve, but it's a simple recipe, and I could see kids doing that even with their teacher or with their parents. And, to make the ice cream in the back of the book, very simple recipe, like the TikTok one.
Yeah. It's shaking the bag, like you were referring to.
Yeah. Or if you have 2 kids, you can throw the bag back and forth to each other. Cause that's what I was doing. I was kind of like juggling.
Right.
Cause it's very cold. I had to put on gloves.
Right. Well, I mean, it did taste good, so I'm actually curious about trying the recipe myself, so I do want to someday. I like baking, I like cooking, so maybe one day I'll try the recipe that you guys put out. So I'm going to change gears a little bit and talk about something that I found really interesting in the book that I think is actually super important, that how an idea changed everything. Because in the book, his mother suggested to him, like, oh, you want to get paid for cooking. That kind of had a light bulb go off in his head. And ever since that point, he was working hard towards it. Even after that, he accomplished what he wanted to do. When he left the White House, he still did what he loved, and it was making ice cream and like selling it for different people. And I thought that was such a really nice message, that sometimes small little suggestions can really change your whole life.
Yeah, and we say that he had one dream and he accomplished that, and he had another dream. And it's important to because I was just teaching a third grade class yesterday. I substitute teach it every now and then. And I was telling them about how what you want to do is find something that you love to do and find a way to make it your career. And then they say, if you do what you love, you never have to work a day in your life. And so we talked about what that meant. So he obviously loved what he was doing, and he became a wealthy man. In Philadelphia, which is, just so unusual. It's just hard to think about this happening, during slavery. He was born in 1808, died in 1852. So he didn't have a long life, but it's funny how some people, they start young and, they live a full life. And, so at 44, he had done quite a bit. I wish he had gotten a patent for it, but he probably didn't really care or wasn't interested, because he was doing what he loved, and he was very, very successful. So it may not have occurred to him to get a patent.
Yeah, when I read that he didn't get a patent, I was shocked. But I think perhaps, like you said, it is true that he didn't care. And I didn't think about that. I was thinking, why didn't he get a patent? He should have done it. Maybe like he would have been more famous. But I think, he did what he loved. And I think that made him so happy. And I'm the kind of person that likes to think what could have happened. But sometimes if I do something good, I need to really appreciate what the good thing I did. So in that sense, he did what he loved and he was happy. And end of story. And that's how I should apply that to my life.
Well, we can. I know my sister is a beautiful artist, and I keep saying, you should illustrate books. You should sell these. And she does. She's not interested in it. She just wants to paint what she wants, when she wants it to do it. She doesn't want to have any pressure. She just loves to paint, and she does beautiful work. But so, we just have to stop telling her, get paid for this. She doesn't want to. She's very much fulfilled in what she's doing.
And unfortunately, back then, when Augustus, was making the ice cream and selling it, it was really hard for African Americans to get patents. So, that's probably, part of it as well. There's some other inventions from that time period, to where the African American wasn't able to get a patent. And years later, someone else, would get a patent for it,
And that's true. And it was true for enslaved people who invented things. Their master would get the patent. So that is another aspect of it. Like I said, there's just so much we don't know about him that I wish we did. We don't know what he felt about that, but we do know that he was very successful at what he did do.
On a similar note, he didn't exactly start doing the dream job that he wanted, and he had to work towards it. And I think that's also something really important for anybody to know at any age, that sometimes you have to start off doing other jobs to get to the point where you want. And even then, he retired and he did something else. But still, it was something that he wanted. And
it was in that it taught him, it prepared him for his next role. And that's another thing that we teach kids is get a job in the field. That, if you want to be a musician, become a sound person, or there's so many jobs you can do in that industry where you're getting knowledge and you're gaining experience. So yeah, there's no, I guess, I always wanted to be a teacher, and then I wanted to be a writer. I always wanted to be those two things. But of course the teaching came first, and writing, it's very hard to make a living writing, but it turned out to me, for me, I retired from teaching basically. They keep drawing me back, but, and now, I can write, basically full time. Both of my dreams came true.
Yeah. I also like to think about how in my life I apply that, where I wanted to do something so badly and I had to do a lot to prepare for that. Like, I always wanted to go to the college that I'm currently attending. However, my grades weren't the best and I wasn't really academically motivated to do anything about it. And so I had a lot of obstacles to, overcome that, because the college I attend, you have to really get yourself together and work hard. And I attended a community college, and just to see how college is like, because I was so scared. But I had to do so much as well, because you have to have some extracurriculars on top of that. And so I'm here now at the college of my dreams, and now I'm like always thinking about the next step, because I'm about to go into entry-level positions in a couple months, and I'm also scared of that because I know it's not going to be the job that I necessarily want, but it's something that I need in order to get to the job that I desire.
Very good. That's what it's all about. And being an intern, is that in the field that you want to?
Yeah. Interning, like podcasting and social media work. This is like two things that I really like doing most. And in order to be in the podcasting or radio industry, you kind of have to start from somewhere else. And I'm starting out as a podcast intern for Reading with Your Kids, and I love it. So it's helping me set up. Thank you. It's helping me set up challenges that I will face, that I know I will feel so prepared for in a couple months, actually.
Oh, congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. Good luck.
Before we start wrapping up, I did really want to ask this so much. What are your ice cream orders? What are you going to order at an ice cream shop?
My favorite ice cream, believe it or not, is chocolate, but I can't eat chocolate anymore. Chocolate doesn't agree with me. So now I love butter pecan.
Mine's chocolate peanut butter and Oreo, and then there's an ice cream shop that's only open during the summer, and they make something that has graham cracker crumbs in it, and it's so good. I think it's called Graham Cracker Central or something. So it's hard for me just to say one flavor.
And what about you?
I'm a lover of ice cream. I literally just had I finished a cup of gelato ice cream the other day. But I have to say my ice cream order has to be 2 scoops of Rocky Road with some caramel. I love Rocky Road. So
I love Rocky Road.
That sounds good. I love it too.
Right.
That's what I used to order. Cause on my way home from junior high, we'd always stop by and get ice cream. And I would get, 1 scoop of Rocky Road and 1 scoop of, I think it was strawberry. Yeah, strawberry.
Kim, do you have any social media platforms or websites where we can find you on?
I do. I have an author website. This is all lowercase in all one word, kimfreeman.us. I am also on Instagram. It's just the username is author Kim Freeman. And my Twitter is Kim Freeman at HORZLVR.
And Glenda, do you have any?
I have all that stuff, but I hardly get them, but I'm keeping up my website better. So my website is glenda-armand.com. But if you find Kim, you'll probably find me too.
Right. Okay, that's all the time we have for today. Glenda, Kim, thank you so much for joining us on Reading with Your Kids. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It was so much fun.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a
very
wonderful
nice.
day.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Nice meeting you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We hope that you enjoyed this episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast and will join us for the next episode of the show. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we'll start by thanking our guests, Glenda Armand and Kim Freeman. Please be sure to check out the Ice Cream Man. Also want to thank Cassandra Maisonet for co-hosting this episode of the podcast. Want to thank our sponsors, Dr. Patty Michelle B. Please be sure to check out the Antidotes Pollution Solution. And we also want to thank Prue McDonald. Please be sure to check out her Reading with Your Kids certified great read, The Chuckle Wobbles. Want to thank the rest of my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Jordan Saley, Stephanie Davila, I also want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. I want to give a special shout out and thank you to my wonderful daughter, Alejandra, for helping me rehab after my recent accident. We'll share more with you on that later. And of course, we want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.